Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 37 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard. Today, we are going to talk about character stereotypes and specifically the mentor character. But first, how was your week?
This week has been exhausting. I think, I'm taking classes and working at the same time, which I think is pretty rough. I'm also really annoyed with UGA in general, just with the numbers that are going on with COVID and all that kind of stuff. Like I want I go to an in-person class. I'd prefer that it would be online just so that I can limit my exposure to undergrads and like that kind of thing. So I mean, that's kind of annoying. I have a test tomorrow, so I've been studying for that. And it's at 8 o'clock in the morning. So
Ooh,
yeah.
So that means my next question, what are you eating and drinking? You're probably not drinking alcohol.
I'm not, because I have to get up early and I need to study a little bit more tonight because that's who I am as a human being. I'm drinking caffeine so that I can stay up a little bit and study. So I'm drinking my typical English breakfast tea.
Okay.
And then for food, I made kale chips. So I baked some kale in the oven and put some oil on them and sprinkled them with salt, and they're really good. So
Neat. I haven't tried that yet, and that's totally keto, so I should try that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I already ate mine.
Of course.
Well, you were working, so it got later, and I was hungry. So
they were just there, and they were just looking at you with those eyes.
And they look so good and tasty. I made butternut squash bacon bites. They're little chunks of butternut squash wrapped in bacon.
Oh my God.
Amazing. Really good.
Great. That sounds like a football food type thing.
I think so. I like it a lot. And then I drank an Aviator, which is a purple drink. And it comes, the Bartesian machine that we have at home.
Yeah.
I ordered it because it was purple and it was really good, but it's 12 carbs per glass.
Ooh,
so I already drank it and I can't have another one. So now I'm drinking my usual brute wine and I have no food left. So
well, all right then.
I will post pictures and give the recipe for anybody interested in these little butternut squash things. They're amazing. My mouth is watering and I'm not even hungry.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, definitely football food, which I'm excited. There should be some games this coming weekend.
I guess we're in September now, huh?
Yeah, it won't be SEC because we don't start until September 26th, but I think there's going to be some ACC games.
Nice.
Which, football, I'll watch whatever I can get my hands on. So I have jokes.
Oh, goody. let me hear them.
So since we're talking about mentors, I have mentor jokes.
Okay.
So this first one is a mentor of mine once told me that a great way to let go of your anger is to write letters to people you hate and then burn them. Well, I did that and I feel much, much better, but I'm not sure what to do with all these letters.
I could see that one coming. I figured and burn them. I was like, oh no, I see where this is going.
The next one is, what did the golf mentor tell his student?
What?
Always wear 2 pairs of pants in case you get a hole in one.
Oh, geez.
A hole in one.
Lord. Yes, but no.
And then the last one is my favorite.
Okay.
What did the mentor Firefly say to her student?
What?
You glow, girl.
Wow. That was really cute, though. That was adorable.
I do. I like that one. Oh boy. Okay.
Goodness. Oh, you didn't say how your week was.
Oh yeah. This whole week I'm just lost. So we went to Virginia and we podcasted from there last week. And my mom is doing much better. So we've come back home. She's on the cane now. She actually walked the dog a little bit.
Oh,
So that's a
okay.
good thing. So she's doing really well. But I came back to having been gone for a week. And so everything is just crazy.
Yeah.
I've got court coming up. So I'm working on all of that stuff. And it's just crazy. Oh, and then taxes were due for my company, my law firm. So I
Okay.
had to get all that stuff to my accountant, who's probably going to shoot me because it's due on Tuesday, and I just gave them to her yesterday. So she has 1 week
Oh,
to do it, which she may not get it done, and then I'll just have to pay fees and penalties, which is entirely my fault. So if I have
yeah.
to, I have to.
Fair.
So that's been my week. I'm very
Well, it's
tired.
been a long week, it sounds like, so
Yeah,
it's fair.
yeah. Um, I worked on some masks up in Virginia, so I got some more Halloween masks, and I want to do Christmas masks.
Oh,
So
nice.
if y'all want to check out my store on Etsy, it's dragoncraftcreations.etsy.com. I've got some pretty cute masks, and I keep evolving because masks are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And after having to go to court and wear one for 8 hours, they're not comfortable. So I
Yeah.
have been readjusting. I've got several different formats that might be more comfortable for people. So you should
Nice.
check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The mentor stereotype.
Yes.
So after the hero, this is the most common stereotype that there is in fantasy novels. The definition is that this is the character who guides the protagonist and offers insight, wisdom, and even the tools to solve the problem of the novel and helps the protagonist grow as the story unfolds.
Nice. Is that a definition that you found somewhere while doing research, or is that one that you have come up with yourself?
I don't know.
Fair enough. I was just curious because I feel like there are just so many different ways to do a mentor character. So like I was just thinking about it, and I didn't look up the definition myself. So I was just curious.
I know I read definitions, but whether this was one that I came up with after reading all the definitions or if it's actually one that I found somewhere, I honestly don't know.
Hmm.
So first I thought I would just go through some examples. I think everybody probably knows what we're talking about, but
Yeah.
like Hagrid in Harry Potter,
Yep.
Yoda in Star Wars, Alfred Pennyworth in Batman,
Hmm.
Morpheus in The Matrix, Joe West in The Flash. He's
Oh,
the
nice.
the dad. Yeah, you watch The Flash. Uncle Ben in Spider-Man, the with great power
Right.
comes great responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Giles and Buffy.
Yeah. He's like one of the best. I love him.
Yeah, me too. And Gandalf in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So I think everybody gets the idea of what I'm talking about. But there's a balance between providing guidance and support and then giving the hero a victory on a silver platter.
Hmm.
So, um, you know, this might be one reason why we always have these characters die all the time. I mean, Gandalf died, and that's they get killed off before they can finish imparting all of this wisdom to our character.
Right. Granted, Gandalf came back, sort of.
He did. Yep, he did. It does kind of irritate me though when someone has all the answers
Oh yeah.
and they could just tell them, those stories where you're like, if they had just told him this 2 chapters ago, this wouldn't have even been a problem. That really annoys me.
Right.
It's kind of like in romance novels where if the 2 people would just talk to each other, there wouldn't be this horrible misunderstanding. And it's so dumb, it drives me crazy. And I
Right.
get that's what moves the romance novel forward, but it does irritate me. I don't want it to be too easy. I don't want, what purpose would this mentor have of keeping the main character in the dark when he's got all the answers and he could have just told him? So
Yeah.
think about that when you're writing a mentor character and come up with a reason why, because
Absolutely.
otherwise it's going to drive your reader crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, come up with some reasonable reason for them not being able to give all the answers. Like, um, can would they? Is it a curse and they can't tell them because they're not allowed to actually mutter the words? Just make it something so that the reader at the end isn't going, well, he could have told him that in the beginning of the story, and there wouldn't have been a story.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then I feel like, your readers are going to feel cheated at that point, where it's like, you get to this twist at the end and it's not exactly a twist because it could have been solved back at the beginning of the novel if the mentor had just been like, hey, by the way, he was your dad or something like that, that kind of thing. So yeah, I get what you're saying. I think a way to kind of combat that is, think about your mentor character's purpose. Are they there to teach a skill set? So maybe they don't have the answers to everything. It's not necessarily a wisdom about, how to solve a conflict, but it's more about, I can teach you this form of magic that will help you in the end, or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
And then maybe, think about the information that they do have and what they do know. Maybe the information they have is outdated, but they can still provide wisdom on a subject. So that way they still don't have all the answers, but they can still contribute and help your hero.
Yeah, I like that. That keeps them from knowing everything, and yet it still gives them purpose of that mentorship. I like that.
Right. Yeah. Or maybe they're here to give, you, the author, a way to get across necessary information about your world. So like you can have them know a lot of things, but when it comes to the world instead of your conflict or your main plot or whatever.
That's true. That's true. So there's all kinds of different types of mentors. The first one that I think we all know is the wise old mentor, like Gandalf or Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. They're wise, dependable. They're lit with this goodness, like just think of Gandalf or Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Right.
Because of their age, they've seen all these things, they've experienced all these things. Now, when you and I were writing our first book together, the kitten book,
there
was a mentor like this in there, that Asian guy, and he did things with fortune cookies.
He did. He did. I don't remember what. It's been so long since we've done that book together. I'm pretty sure it's been like 10 years since we tried writing it together.
At least.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
But I remember exactly
27.
who that is.
Yeah.
What?
I said, yeah, you're 27. So maybe it was about 10 years. That would have been, you would have been about 17, I think, when we started writing together.
I think so. Cause then I started writing Aiden when I was around 18, because I was a freshman in college. So 17, 18 is when I started my own stuff.
But he was an interesting character, and we collected, I remember every time we would go to eat Chinese, we would keep the really funny, the fortunes out of the fortune cookies. But yeah, so the wise old mentor, very common.
Yeah. He's one of the more cliched types of mentors, but
yeah. And then the grizzled or gruff mentor. So he's not gentle, he's not easy. He may have that soft heart, the little heart of gold and teddy bear on the inside, but this gruff dude on the outside.
Yeah.
Kind of the tough love thing, often weathered looking. Think Bobby Singer in the Supernatural.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he called the boys idiots all the time, but loved them dearly.
Absolutely.
My twin saga actually has one of these characters, and he's got the beard and he's gruff and he's scarred from war that he's waged in the past, and he kind of looks like a lumberjack, and he guides the Clinton, the magician's apprentice.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I don't remember that at all. It's been so long since I've read that book. I guess I was freshman in high school, which means I was like 14, which was 13 years ago. So
yeah.
It's been a hot second.
Yeah. Okay, so the grizzled gruff mentor, you've got the young wizard mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately what came to mind for me on this one was in Warcraft, the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we play World of Warcraft, so right. It's not the same in the world right now, but in the movie, it was long enough ago that this character who's now old and wise in the game was this young magician character who
Yeah.
was an advisor to the king. They're charming, they're somewhat debonair, they're young, handsome, and completely unexpected as a mentor because they aren't old and wise, but they do
Right.
have this magic capability. So that's another another type of mentor.
Yeah.
Then you have hero mentors. So these are ones that are epic heroes in their own right, but they somehow get stuck with another younger hero or main character. So usually against their own wishes. They don't want to do that.
Yeah, and this one reminded me of Haymitch in the Hunger Games, because he ended up having to coach Katniss and Peeta to go through their own Hunger Games.
That is
And
a
he,
perfect
yeah,
example.
yeah,
Absolutely.
because he's already won the Hunger Games. He was obviously the victor of his own Hunger Games, and so he had to be there. And suddenly he gets saddled with, these two to mentor them and go through that. So yeah,
That's a great example. And that's an actual book instead of some of the ones I'm coming up with are movies, but
right,
that's good. Women mentors.
yeah,
Okay, so to me, I think there should be women in all the categories above too. The wise old woman, which sometimes I think there might be the matron or the crone or whatever.
right,
But you don't often see women mentors. It's always
right.
men, which we need more women.
Yeah, absolutely. I realized as I was researching for this that I actually use one in Mac, because Dre actually is a mentor character for her.
That's right. She teaches
Mhm.
her magic.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good one. I've got other examples. So there are some out there like M from James Bond, Melinda May from the Agents of Shield.
Oh, yeah.
She's a good one. Although, again, TV shows. I don't
Right.
think you ever read the Belgariad series.
I didn't.
Excellent series,
No.
but Polgara is a female mentor.
Right.
Teaches, gosh, what was his name? Starts with a B. Anyway, teaches the main character. She is like a teacher to him and mentor. She is an excellent example of what a female mentor can be.
Nice.
Professor McGonagall and Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love her. She's a great, great mentor character. And she didn't die.
And she didn't die. And then I was thinking of Walking Dead because that's one we often use. And Lori
Yeah.
was kind of a mentor. Carol wasn't early on. She kept to herself. She had her own. She didn't want to develop attachments to anyone because they kept dying.
Right.
But in her own way, Carol was also a mentor.
Yeah. Oh, especially towards like the later seasons for sure.
Yeah. Ellen from Supernatural.
I remember Ellen.
Yeah, she was badass. I
Yeah.
love her.
She's great.
So there are women mentors out there, but I feel like there should be a whole lot more than what we see.
What there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we create a mentor character in our novel?
Right.
So they need to offer guidance, but let the main character figure things out on their own.
Yeah, I think that's pretty key.
Yeah, they normally care about the protagonist.
Right. And on that note, like, we talked about it a little bit before, but make sure there's a reason for that. Like, why does this mentor character care about your main character? Why would they care about some naive person who doesn't know what they're doing? Because obviously they need this mentor character if you've written them in.
Right.
Like, why do they care? So.
Yeah, what made me think of what I thought of immediately in this was, and did you watch the Sword of Shannara series?
Mm-mm.
Okay. In that one, there's a druid, and he is the mentor character, and he kind of falls into that young, charismatic magician, although he's older than a young one, but he's still not the old wise one.
Right.
And he finds himself mentored to several of the younger characters in that book. And his reasoning is, number one, he wants to prevent war. He wants to save, quote, humanity, which includes elves and all the other human-like creatures
Yeah.
from demons and that kind of thing. And he's the last druid, so he wants to carry on. He wants someone there to carry on the druidism. And so
Right.
there's
Yeah.
several different characters that he ends up mentoring.
Nice.
Mentors need to be there when your characters need them, mostly. I mean,
Most of the time.
sometimes it's a rock to not have them be there.
Right, exactly. Which is, because you mentioned before that they're often killed off. So I feel like that's a really good way to rip the rug out from under your main character's feet.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is why it happens most of the time, is because, yeah, there are these super wise characters that are supposed to help your main character get through this conflict. So if you take that away, then it's a really good rock to throw at them.
And I think, a lot of times our main characters get lazy. Not lazy is not the right word, but they get comfortable knowing that that mentor is always there. Oh, I'm always going to be able to get the answer. I'm always going to be safe. I'm always,
Right.
and to kill them off or have something happen to them where they're taken away, like Gandalf was captured.
Right.
So that is a great way, like you said, to have the rug ripped out from underneath their feet and throw rocks at them.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, in Buffy, Giles eventually realizes that Buffy is very dependent on him and is not like growing on her own. And so he makes the decision himself to leave and he goes back to England.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
I think is a crazy thing to have, to make him choose to be like, I'm not helping you anymore. I'm leaving so that you have to do things on your own. And I think that's super cool. That was a really cool way to write that mentor character without killing him off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was neat. Most of the time, I feel like the mentor character is introduced in the first act of a novel. So, if you're writing a 90,000 word novel, then that would be like within the first 20,000 words, you would introduce this character. So he or she is usually there from the beginning. And they're usually killed at the midpoint climax. And that's because, that's supposed to be the hardest point for your main character. So you really want to rip the rug out from under them there, because you want your reader to also be on the edge of their seat and they go, oh no, like this character who they love is like dead now, and also how are they supposed to get through this without them?
Well, and also, you talk about it in the first act, but think about a series. So you could have that mentor be there through the first 2 books and then die, because then
Right.
your reader is really invested to them because they've been there through more than 1 book.
Absolutely.
Or not necessarily die, but something happens
Right. They leave or they can't help anymore, whatever. Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. That's a really good point when thinking about series, especially because like since we do write urban fantasy, most of the time those are series instead of standalone books.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they can't be, but just like that tends to be the trend is that there is multi-book series type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point.
Definitely.
Another thing I have written down is, make sure your mentor character is unique. And this will kind of get into, I think you go into that a little bit later. But we talked about the types earlier, and some of them are very cliche. So you want to make your character kind of stand apart.
You kind of
from others.
Twist the trope like we've done in some of our other podcast episodes where we talk about how to change them up. One thing that I think is a good way to do that is to give them their own conflict that's going on.
Yeah.
We don't want them to be there just for that purpose. They've got, like you said, they're their own person, that you want them to have their own story arc.
Absolutely. Yeah, because otherwise they end up being more static rather than dynamic. And you definitely want all of your characters to be dynamic in some way.
Yeah.
And going along with that, make the personality of your mentor go with the personalities of your other characters, whether it's through similarities or through antagonism, because it can make for some really interesting conflict if you give them relationships with all of your characters instead of just your main character.
I gotcha. I was going to ask you what that meant, but I get it.
Yeah. So just kind of, whether they're conflicting personalities or whether their personalities go together very well. I think there's room for a lot of storylines that you can create with your mentor character and other characters in your novel.
Well, think about your mentor character aligning really well with this other side character against what your main character wants to do. That, like you said, creates great drama and conflict.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, make them align with the theme of your novel. So a mentor character is huge. They they have a big influence on your main character and what your main character is going to do and the choices they make. They have a huge impact on the story. So make sure that aligns with the theme that you're trying to get across in your novel.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah, I think you can use all of your characters in that way, but I think the fact that the mentor is such a big influence on the main character, and therefore the plot, that's a really good way to get across your theme as well.
I don't think we used that when we talked about theme. I don't think we talked about using the mentor character to do that, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't think we did. There's probably a lot more that we could talk about with theme that we did not get across in that episode, and maybe we can revisit it.
That's true.
Because theme is big too.
It's
big for your novels or your series as a whole or whatever. So, and then lastly, I have make sure that your mentor character has flaws, because again, they are people too.
True. So how do we think about this as authors, as writers? When we're creating, we know we need this mentor character for our theme or whatever the purpose is that we need this mentor character. How do we do it? And as we've talked about in many episodes before, I like to have those what if questions, those open-ended questions that help you visualize where you're going, and write it all down in your little writer's journal that we talked about, because you might come back and revisit it. So like you had said earlier, what is the mentor's goal in helping the protagonist?
Right.
What does the mentor gain or lose from helping the protagonist? And that question can lead to other arcs within, maybe the mentor knows he has to help him, but by helping him, he's going to lose something, but he has to do it for whatever this goal is that they have to do. Maybe he has to pass on his magic and he'll lose his magic.
Yeah.
But it's got to pass on to this new person, this new hero.
Absolutely.
How does the mentor become involved with the protagonist? Are you going to set that up in this story, or is it going to be backstory? And if it's backstory, how are you going to get that across to your readers? Was it an easy meeting? Was it they hated each other at first sight type meeting? Think about these things. Make notes in your writer's journal as you're doing this. How far will your mentor go to help your protagonist? Will he cross lines? Will he cross his own ethical lines? Which would be a great way to show character arc within your mentor and make him or her their own character. So it's not a one-dimensional character.
Right.
What does the mentor know, the information, the skill set, like you had said earlier, that's worth passing on? Is it he's a sword fighter and the main character is going to have to use these sword skills and is going to have to know that? What is it that the mentor knows that he's got to pass on?
Yeah.
What role does the protagonist's life play what role in the protagonist's life? Wow. This is what happens when I drink purple drinks and then go to little wine drinks. Okay. What role in the protagonist's life does the mentor play?
Right.
Was he a grandfather? Was he like Obi-Wan Kenobi? Was he like Yoda who had to be sought out? How is he in your character's life? How do they interact? Is it the parent-child type scenario? Is it the student-teacher type scenario? Is it the best of friends? What role is your mentor going to have in interacting?
Sorry to interrupt you. I think that one is really interesting because that makes you think about the relationship between your protagonist and the mentor character. And and it brings in all those other questions that you've already asked, which is, how did they come into their life, and how did you set this up, and how did they first meet, and that kind of thing. So I really like that one just because, I had a train of thought. It's gone now.
And you aren't drinking purple drinks.
I'm not. I'm drinking caffeine. Whatever. Continue. It might come back to me. It might not.
Okay. What secrets does the mentor know that could hurt the protagonist? Earlier we talked about why wouldn't he just tell him? If he knows
Yeah.
the answer, why wouldn't he just tell him? Well, maybe because it's hurtful.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a secret that it would devastate this main character, and they wouldn't be able to go on and do what they need to do to save the world if they know this secret.
Yeah.
So why is the mentor holding back this information?
Yeah.
And how does the mentor go about preparing your protagonist not only to meet this conflict, but to deal with the eventual truth of this secret that is going to eventually have to come out? Like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
The fact that he was the final Horcrux.
Right, which Dumbledore knew
and
could
all
have
along
said the whole time. Mm-hmm.
And he did kind of help prepare Harry for that. So, think about that.
Yeah.
What not to do when you're creating a mentor character. And as you said, they're very cliched. So, you've got to be thoughtful in creating your mentor. Don't make them too cryptic. Or if they are, have a reason for why, like the curse that I was talking about. Is it they literally cannot say those words or they'll be struck dead.
Right.
Don't make them too helpful. That's boring and way too easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I know I mentioned it earlier, but I feel like as a reader, I would feel cheated if they just, up and figured it all out because the mentor just solved it for the main character. Like, where's the struggle? I want strife. Give me rocks thrown at your main character. I'd love that.
Definitely. Don't forget to give them a stake in the outcome. Like the Druid in the Shannara series, there was a reason why. And I can't remember, I think he willingly died. I think he knew what he was doing when he went and did whatever he did that killed him. And because there was a stake in there. And so you think about that and make it realistic. There is nothing worse than reading it and going, he killed himself. I mean, and if you haven't built that background and that connection, it's not going to work.
Right. Absolutely. On top of that, I think I mentioned this earlier, don't let them be static. In other words, they should have their own story. They need to have their own arc. So we talked a little bit about that. Basically, they're a character like any other. So make them well-rounded, give them relationships, give them wants and desires, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They have a backstory too. So also don't let that slide without mentioning it. Because especially if they're like a wise old character, they're going to obviously have a whole life that they've lived and they know all this information for some reason.
Yeah. How did they become so knowledgeable? Good point.
Right. So let your reader know that, because otherwise they're just there and they give them answers and then they die. And what's the point? So,
I know. And it's really funny if you want to add some humor in there, to have your main character not be able to imagine this old geezer ever having been in love with someone or ever having been, and that can add humor. It's opportunity for humor in there.
Right. No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think that's everything I had about mentors. I'm sure there's a lot more. But I think this is a good start for people to think about when they're writing mentors into their novels.
I think so too. I mean, we could also, delve more deeply into types of mentor characters and that kind of thing, and how they can be useful to a specific story and that kind of stuff. So I'm sure we got more
good
that
idea.
We can
Yeah.
I have an interview question.
Okay.
What mentor type do you use most in your writing, and why do you think that is?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about the mentors in all of the books that I've written as I was researching this. And I didn't realize until I was researching this that I have mentors in every single book. So in Earth Asunder, that was the one that I told you where the earth had cracked. And yes, with Theron. In that one, there is this old geezer type. And what's really funny in this one is I've got this young girl. Well, not too young, because that would be gross, but her name is Tree, and she ends up falling for him, and he is totally flummoxed. He has no idea. He's, my life is over. and this young girl falls for him, and that creates this hilarious character arc, just aside from the main character of Theron doing what he has to do to save the world.
Yeah.
But that mentor character is there, and she totally turns his world upside down.
Yeah.
And then in Trick, a different kind of evil, her mentor, which there's a story there, but he's the grizzled warrior type.
Yeah.
My twin saga, we've got Rain, who is the magician, the young magician type, young, vital, handsome, that kind of thing, but also Balinor Cole, who is the grizzled guy that helps Clinton.
Yes. Yeah.
Frickin' Fairies, I was trying to think, okay, so who's the mentor in Frickin' Fairies? And I think it's Leary.
Oh, yeah.
She is one of the fairies, and she's got her own fairy sassiness, but she's the one that knows all the rules.
She is. Yes. That's a really good point. I was, you mentioned it, and I was like, well, who is it? Who is she going to say right here? Because I have no idea. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I didn't do it on purpose, but she is the perfect mentor. She's got her own storyline. She's still a fairy the frickin' fairies.
Yep.
But she knows all the rules in the magical world, and knowing that Beck has no clue, she steps in and goes, leprechaun, that's not the rule. You've got to do this and that kind of thing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then in Kada, the story that starts in Atlanta and they go into a different world, I think Amila is my mentor character and she's female. I was like, yes, I've got a female mentor. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
What about you? Do all of yours have mentors?
They do. And it's all like one type sort of. All of them, first of all, are female, which, I didn't really think about, I'm going to put in this mentor character and this is going to be what they're like, and I'm going to make them female on purpose and blah, 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 blah. It's the same kind of thing with your fairies, and like Leary ended up being the mentor. Kind of the same thing in mine, because Aiden ends up joining this group of people. It used to be werewolves, and I've changed that. But, the alpha werewolf originally in the version that you've read ends up being the mentor character for her. Mm-hmm. Along with another person in there who teaches her how to fight. So she's kind of got two.
Okay.
Although the one who teaches her how to fight hates her. So,
Is that Gabriella?
Yes.
I remember Gabriella. Yeah. She, I think, might have been my favorite character in that.
She's great. I'm so impressed that you remember that. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's her. And then, let's see. In Mac, it's Dre. Dre teaches her magic, or at least to a greater degree than she already knows it. And so that ends up being what helps her in the end, in the major conflict. And Dre is, she's got her selfish motives. She's not exactly like a wise character. She's not exactly, whatever, but she does know more than Mac. And so she is able to.
She's more along the lines of that one. Where are the types that we had? She's the hero mentor, because she's got her own story that she's the hero of, and she finds herself saddled with this character that needs training. So yeah. And then in my Aura series, which you haven't read yet, the main character gets kind of thrown into this world of magic. So originally she didn't know about it. Now she does. And so obviously there's a huge opportunity for mentor characters in that setting. And the one that she ends up with is just this young girl who ends up, she's like 25 or whatever. And she's like, oh yeah, I know about all this stuff. I can help you out with this. And like protects her from things that are, after Cat and like all that kind of stuff. So all of them are female. What about Louis and Delaney?
Oh, good point. I don't know that I have a mentor character for that one.
I think there are mentors, not like the types that we've talked about here, but there are people that help both Louis and Delaney on the side. Like,
well, and then arguably they're each other's mentors.
True.
But they're the main characters. But I switch.
The cop helps Delaney.
Right.
But I don't know that I'd call him a mentor. And the coworker with the socks.
Right.
I
You
love
remember
him.
the weirdest things about my books.
He's kind of a mentor, but not to the crux of the story. He is a
Right.
mentor in the mundane part of her life
Right.
because he works with her at this, in her job and all the stuff that goes on just with her normal job.
Right.
And I'm not sure Louis,
Louis doesn't have anyone. She's purposefully
I
kept herself
guess,
isolated.
I guess her mentor is her boss figure.
Oris.
Oris, that's his name.
That's horrible for her. Oris is awful.
Yeah. But I think that may be who is in her life that has that mentor. He's the one that taught her
Everything.
everything.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think
Interesting.
he technically is, but he's an asshole.
He's a horrible, horrible, scary, evil person.
Yeah. But he is. But you're not wrong. He does teach her everything that she knows because she grew
Mm-hmm.
up with him. So
And not only does he teach her the actual physical things, he's taught her by the way he's treated her how to react to the world around her, which
right.
part of that I think he did on purpose because he wanted her tough.
Yeah.
There's always, the mentor, he's an evil character, but I think even he has his reasons for why he does what he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't consider himself evil.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no. He knows he's an asshole, but I don't think he considers himself evil.
Yeah.
He just does what he needs to do to get himself ahead.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's all we've got. I think we might have to revisit this topic again. There's a lot. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for listening. You can check out our website at eatdrinkrightpodcast.com. It has our email, all of our social media. We do every now and then I'll post a blog thing when I have time. You need to do a blog thing when you have time. We've got eat, drink, and write categories where I post pictures of our food and pictures of our drinks and recipes if I think that you might find them interesting. So leave us reviews on any of the way, whether you watch us on YouTube or whether you listen to us on all the different podcast places. Leave us reviews, send us an email. We'd appreciate it. We have a Patreon and a patron. So help us out if you can. If you think that what we do is worthwhile, we would certainly love the help. And we hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.